Hey everybody, it's Spider here, the Fight Card Podcast, coming to you once again. I'm in the studio. I'm actually in my chair, trying to get a little comfortable. Going over this next card. It's going to be for the Fight Club Rush number 14. Now, this is coming to us via UFC Fight Pass, of course, this Saturday, 12 Eastern our time. The promotion itself is coming to us all the way from Sweden, man. So that's interesting. One of the things I like about the UFC Fight Pass is that it's giving us these options, kind of like the old HD Net and other promotions that used to actually bring all these promotions together basically for the world to see. But the card itself is beautifully stacked. I mean, it's going to be, of course, a lot of regional fighters. Some fighters, of course, are new to the sport. Not a lot of when it comes to fight engagement, but nonetheless, as the card gets higher, the on the main card, a lot of experience, man. I mean, of course, international, but I'm gonna go to the main card. I mean, nonetheless, the first one, of course, on there is gonna be Powell Zumia coming in 1 and 2. This is gonna be at 155 pounds, 35-minute rounds, of course. Taking on Basangur Makaev. Now, Makaev, of course, 0-1. The guy is coming in. A little pressured, you don't wanna go 0-2, of course. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this main card starts off. Now both guys, of course, are do have experience. Now Zumaev, of course, I looked him up. The guy's an amateur. He's actually racked up quite a few wins, 5-2, 1-2 as a professional. Um, it doesn't do it justice. A lot of these guys have been training for years, of course. One thing I did notice throughout this whole card is just like the rest of the world. When COVID hit, a lot of fighters were inactive. So it just kind of led me to assume that a lot of these fighters just went pro. A lot of people here in the U.S. actually did that. They were amateurs and they were like, man, I've already missed out a year. So they just jumped on the pro circuit. Some it was a good thing to do. Some not so much, man. I mean, they still needed a lot of experience. But we're gonna go through. I mean, that was gonna be the first bout on the main card, of course. Going on to the second one, there's gonna be a cash weight of 161. Moin Hamid taking on Rick Gangia, 3-2. This is going to be a cash weight, of course, 35-minute rounds. Amadi, of course, 3-4. The more experience, but I mean, this is international. I'm not saying the competition isn't as great, of course, because a lot of these guys are experienced. But we'll see where it goes, man. I mean, of course, he wants to be able to plateau that record, 3-4, get that win, at least be 4-4. We'll see, man. That's gonna be the second bout on the main card. I'm sorry, and of course, this is gonna be this Saturday, 12 noon our time here in the U.S. The promotion, of course, all the way from Sweden. So looking forward to that, man. I'll be breaking that down that day. I'll be home. But next one up, of course, we're gonna go to Eric Walecki, 0-1, taking on Saki Kambari, 0-1. Both these guys, of course, coming in, competing at 145 pounds. Now, the weight limit, of course, is one of those hot ones, man. I enjoy it. Eric Walecki, of course, 0-1 as a professional. As an amateur, he's actually racked up quite a few. Man, he's got like over 20 bouts, So talk about experience. I mean, the guy, I'm sure, probably got overexcited making his pro debut. Shot too early and took that loss, man. But his opponent, of course, Saki Kambari, 0-1, the same record as a professional. The guy's actually only had 2 fights in his whole fighting career. I'm not sure if anything unsanctioned or smoker or anything like that, but he's actually had 1 loss as an amateur and 1 loss as a pro. We'll see where it goes, man. I mean, that can be a good thing and a bad thing. One of the things I realized on this card also is a lot of these guys have a lot of experience, and we'll get that to the co-main event. But because of that, a lot of these guys are already battered. They're beat up. I mean, by the time they make it to the pro circuit, man, it's just injuries are prolonged, and they end up suffering a lot more. But we'll see. I mean, it's going to be even flat record on paper. I mean, it looks good, but their amateur experience, man, I mean, it says a lot. But we're going to go up one. This is going to be at 145 pounds, 35-minute rounds, of course, pro bout. Robert Nistrom, 6-7, taking on Washi Adeshina. Now, 145 pounds, of course, I mean, it's still a lot of power, still a lot of speed. Both these guys, as professionals, I mean, of course, I'm looking at Robert Nistrom, and the guy has a lot of experience, man. As an amateur, he's actually got over 20 bouts. Goes back to that whole background. A lot of these guys, of course, you see their record as a pro, and you're not too overwhelmed, as far as what they bring to the table. But there's a lot of experience on this. I mean, Washim Adeshima, of course, 2-2. The guy's out of Sweden, of course. This is a local card to the nation, of course. 3 losses coming into as an amateur, of course. When pro got 2 losses, and he's actually in the win streak for the promotion. Now this is going to be for he's fought in the Fight Club Rush number 11 and 13. So there's a charm. We'll see. You know, the guy's definitely has momentum. That's always a good thing. And we'll see, man. I mean, like I said, Robert Nystrom, I mean, he's got a lot of experience as an amateur, but that can be a good or bad thing. We'll see. Of course, once again, Saturday noon, our time here in the U.S., 12 Eastern. Going up one. This is it gets pretty good right here, man. I mean, the whole card is great, so definitely look it up. Enrique Echer Sosa 3-1 taking on Bilal Tipsaev 4-1-1. Now Enrique, of course, the guy's 3-1 as a professional. Looked up his amateur record, and it's beautifully stacked. I mean, the guy's fought like over 20 times. You know, that's a lot of experience. And once again, being on that circuit, I mean, not to say it's a bad thing. It's a lot of fighters out there, great. But we'll see, man. I mean, at 135 pounds, of course, me and my boy, Jimmy the Brick Flick, of course, we talked about the speed, the agility, and the quickness, man. I mean, this is going to be exciting. Being the co-main event, of course, I expect him to bring the heat. Bilal Tipsaev, of course, 4-1-1 as a professional. The guy's only fought twice as an amateur. That's a good thing and a bad thing, of course. A lot of these guys, because they are regional, I'm not sure on their background. So a lot of times you get like gold medalist wrestlers, you know, Olympic style boxers or kickboxers. So you don't know what kind of experience they get into once they jump into MMA. But yeah, I mean, that's going to be a great co-main event. And of course, getting to the main event, there's no title bouts on this card. Unfortunately, man, I was hoping there'd be some gold. But at 185 pounds, that's going to be the co-main event. I mean, we're going to have 6-1 Gustafsson, of course, Andreas Berg Gustafsson 6-1. Now, the guy has experience as an amateur. I mean, he's actually only had 1 loss in his amateur career. You know, he was on a win streak up all the way to KSW 55, where he actually took his first loss. A lot of times those are good because this guy, as far as from what I gathered, I mean, his last fight was in 2022. So I'm kind of curious how much that loss affected him, you know, whether he felt like he wasn't good enough. That's part of the mental game, you know. Some of the fighters that came through the studio talk about that, and some people can work through that, and some have a hard time. So I'm curious to see how he's going to do coming into this bout. Now, ring rust, of course, we'll see. I mean, the guy is 6-1. Now, his opponent, he has fought once last year and once in 2021. Now, the guy is experienced as a professional. As an amateur, he was undefeated. But once again, I mean, 6-4. This is going to be his opponent, of course, Lucas Diosuzia. And I probably chopped that up. But at 185 pounds, I mean, these guys have knockout power. They have the agility to move around still a lot. It's going to be interesting to see if Gustafsson can actually handle that pressure right off the bat. You know, Lucas, of course, you know, the guy, he is 6-4-1. 11 bouts total. Now, his finishes have been mostly by strikes. He's got a couple of unanimous decisions, which means he can go the distance. And we'll see, man, whether this is going to end in the first round. Now, once again, it is the main event, no title, so of course, just 3 5-minute rounds. I was under the understanding that all UFC fight cards were going to be, fight pass, were going to be 5-minute rounds, main events. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I'm thinking UFC. But nonetheless, man, this is going to be for Fight Club Rush number 14, of course, this Saturday, all the way from Sweden, Västerås, Sweden to be exact. Now, Fight Club Rush, of course, I've already watched 2 of their past installments. A lot of action on this. Regional, I'm a fan. I mean, of course, I'm all the way out here in Texas, and I'm enjoying it. You know, UFC Fight Pass, man. If you're not on it, get on it. Subscribe. It's definitely worth the money. For those, of course, I'm going to be posting the results. Go to our Facebook page under TexasFighting.com. On Instagram, under DeFi Card Podcast, as well as our YouTube channel. Subscribe, chime in, let us know where you're from, and we'll follow you then. Till next time, Spider here, DeFi Card Podcast. Follow up.